I, along with a lot of other Australians, have been watching the stage career of Mr. Barry Humphries with a good deal of amusement.
The colourful life of Barry Humphries began relatively plainly in the comfortable surrounds of suburban Melbourne.
I had a rather lonely childhood, or rather I felt different. I felt that I was destined for something mysterious that would not please my parents if I did it. It turned out to be the theatre.
Despite the safety and simplicity of his upbringing, Humphries always suspected he was destined for a life in the spotlight. Artist Tim Storia knew Barry Humphries for 50 years.
The stories about his unhappiness at school and refusing to watch football and things, it would have taken a lot of courage.
His career in comedy began in the 1950s while a student at Melbourne University. His absurdist humour and quick wit quickly made Humphries a feature of Australia's theatre scene.
Nothing could equal the fear I felt when I did my very first show as a solo performer. I became addicted to the drug adrenaline.
But by the end of the 1950s, he'd outgrown his home country and London was calling, a rite of passage for many performers of the era, according to fellow satirist Max Gillies.
People with cultural aspirations or aspirations, creative ones of any kind, couldn't wait to get out of the place.
It was on the back of a bus where Humphries concocted the character that would make him a comedy legend.
I've got a matter of seconds. I'll be as quick as I can.
Less.
Okay.
Off.
Bye.
Thank you.
How do you do? Oh, goodness me, it is wonderful to be back in this peaceful city of Melbourne after my travels. I'm quite a globetrotter.
By the 1970s, the outrageously pompous parody of an upper-middle-class Melbourne suburbanite was an international superstar.
Oh, how I wish you'd sprung from my very own loins.
Dame Edna Everidge, the suburban housewife, becomes a dame. Not just a dame of the British Empire, but a pantomime dame, a monstrous creature.
Known for her sartorial splendour, lethal one-liners, and that unforgettable catchphrase.
Hello, Buzzer!
Humphries' Edna would go on to host her own talk show and become a sought-after guest on various others.
Now, I'd like to ask you about a film that catapulted you into stardom. It was called Apocalypse Now.
Oh, yes, yes.
I suppose now we would call it Apocalypse Then.
But a life lived as Edna was an exhausting pursuit, as Humphries told 7:30 in 2009.
If I had to live with that woman for more than 24 hours, I'd go crazy. She used to say quite early on in her career, the secret of my success is that I've put my family last. Tighten your belt.
Humphries' other characters were also born out of a lifelong fascination with Australiana and an insatiable desire to shock audiences.
Good to be in Sydney. I've been busy.
You've been in Baghdad, I believe.
Who hasn't?
He did tell a story once. He was the entertainment at a very large conference of Australian businessmen in Hong Kong. And he got into costume, but then they wouldn't let him into the auditorium because they didn't believe for 1 minute that he was the entertainment, because he looked like so many of the gentlemen from the Australian business community that were in the hall.
Longtime friend Tim Storia painted Humphries' alter ego Les Patterson for an Archibald Prize entry in 2014. He's now in possession of a priceless Humphries memento.
They're hard things to display. The only thing that one notices about Les's teeth is if you show them to people, they recoil. They've never seen anything quite as disgusting and filthy. It's an honour to have them, I suppose.
He says behind the facade of his iconic characters, Barry Humphries was a loyal friend with a passion for painting.
He preferred the company of painters, writers and filmmakers, of course, as well. I don't think he spent much time at all with other thespians.
Appearing on 7:30 in 2017, he reflected on his extraordinary life and his mortality.
And I also find myself going to funerals a lot. I've had a number of losses which make me realise that I'm in some kind of queue, shuffling along towards the pearly gates, or at least the celestial box office.
Tim Storyar spoke to his friend in his last days and says Barry Humphries never lost his wicked sense of humour.
He was asking the nursing staff whether the Grim Reaper had been at work in the halls and how many people had left during the night, which of course doesn't go down very well in a hospital. They don't.
Barry Humphries leaves behind a legacy of laughs and characters etched in comedy folklore.
There's something more tragic and a bigger loss when the people that make us laugh, really laugh at ourselves, pass on.
Thank you, viewers, for having me at your place.